What happens when one of television's most powerful figures walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a friendly chat, only to be blindsided by a host with an agenda? In just 45 seconds, a simple question would spiral into one of the most explosive clashes in British television history, ending with security being called and a global superstar storming off set. Simon Cowell arrived at the Loose Women's studio that morning like he had countless times before. The music mogul, known for his sharp tongue on talent shows around the world, was there to promote his latest project. He settled into the purple chair, exchanged pleasantries with the panel, and prepared for what he thought would be another routine interview. But Denise Welch had other plans. The panel that day consisted of Denise, along with Nadia Sawalha, Kay Adams, and Janet Street Porter. The atmosphere seemed light at first. There were smiles, there was laughter, and Simon looked relaxed. He spoke about his work, about discovering new talent, about his passion for music. Everything seemed perfectly normal. That is, until Denise decided to take the conversation in a completely different direction. "So Simon," Denise began, leaning forward with a look that immediately shifted the energy in the room. "Let's talk about something that really matters. Your reputation." Simon raised an eyebrow, still smiling, but clearly surprised by the sudden change in tone. "My reputation? I thought we were here to talk about the new show." "Well, we can talk about whatever I want to talk about," Denise shot back, her voice taking on an edge that made the other panelists exchange uncomfortable glances. "This is my show, after all." Nadia jumped in quickly, trying to lighten the mood. "Denise, maybe we should—" "No, Nadia, I think the audience deserves to hear this," Denise interrupted, not taking her eyes off Simon. "Simon, you've built a career on being brutally honest with people, on crushing their dreams on national television. How does that feel? Does it make you feel powerful?" The audience fell silent. You could hear the tension crackling through the studio. Simon's smile faded, replaced by a look of genuine confusion. "I'm sorry. What exactly are you asking me?" Simon said, his voice measured but firm. "Are you seriously suggesting that giving people honest feedback is somehow cruel?" "Honest feedback?" Denise laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you enjoy humiliating people for entertainment." Kay Adams tried to intervene, her voice diplomatic. "I think what Denise is trying to say is—" "I can speak for myself, Kay," Denise snapped, silencing her colleague. She turned back to Simon, her expression hardening. "You sit there in your expensive clothes, with your millions in the bank, and you judge people who are just trying to follow their dreams. What gives you the right?" Simon straightened in his chair, his famous composure beginning to crack. "What gives me the right? I've spent 30 years in this industry. I've worked with some of the biggest names in music. I know talent when I see it, and I know when someone is wasting their time. If anything, I'm doing them a favor by being honest." "A favor?" Denise's voice rose, drawing gasps from the audience. "You think destroying someone's confidence is doing them a favor? You think making them cry on television is helping them?" Janet Street Porter, who had been quiet until this point, leaned forward. "Denise, I think you're being a bit unfair here. Simon's job is to— His job is to be a bully." Denise cut her off sharply. "And frankly, I'm tired of pretending otherwise. We invite these people onto our shows, we celebrate them, but we never call them out for what they really are." The color was rising in Simon's face now. He held up a hand, trying to keep his cool. "Okay, I came here today to have a professional conversation. If you have a personal problem with me, that's fine. But this is not the time or place for—" "Oh, here we go," Denise interrupted again, rolling her eyes dramatically. "The big, powerful Simon Cowell can dish it out, but he can't take it. Is that it? You can humiliate a 16-year-old girl on stage, but you can't handle a few hard questions." "Hard questions?" Simon's voice was rising now, too. "These aren't hard questions, Denise. This is you using your platform to attack me for no reason. I don't know what your problem is, but I didn't come here to be ambushed. Nadia reached out, placing a hand on Denise's arm. Maybe we should take a breath here, and Denise shook her off. Don't touch me, Nadia. I'm fine. Unlike some people, I can handle a bit of conflict. A bit of conflict? Simon stood up now, his microphone still clipped to his jacket. This isn't conflict. This is unprofessional. This is you, grandstanding for your audience at my expense. Sit down, Simon, Denise commanded, pointing at his chair. We're not done here. Actually, we are, Simon replied, his voice icy calm now. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Kay tried one more time to salvage the situation. Simon, please, I'm sure we can all just calm down and... Calm down? Denise laughed again, that same harsh sound. Why should anyone calm down? Why do we always have to tiptoe around these big egos? Simon Cowell is not special. He's just another man who got lucky in the music industry and now thinks he's God's gift to television. The audience was murmuring now, some shocked, some excited by the drama unfolding before them. Simon unclipped his microphone with shaking hands. You know what, Denise? I actually feel sorry for you, Simon said quietly, his words cutting through the noise. You're so desperate for attention, so desperate to create a moment, that you're willing to sabotage your own show and disrespect your guest. That's sad. Sad? Denise's face flushed red. I'll tell you what's sad. What's sad is a man who makes millions off the broken dreams of vulnerable people, then acts like the victim when someone finally stands up to him. Janet tried to interject again. This is getting out of hand. Maybe we should go to a commercial break. No, Denise said firmly. No commercial break. Simon needs to hear this. The public needs to hear this. Simon was moving toward the edge of the set now, clearly preparing to leave. I don't need to hear anything from you. You've made your feelings perfectly clear. Running away? Denise called after him, her voice dripping with mockery. How predictable. The big tough judge can't handle a little criticism. Simon stopped and turned back, his expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. Criticism? Is that what you think this is? Criticism is constructive. Criticism is based on facts. What you're doing is just bitter. Bitter? Denise stood up now too, the other panelists looking on helplessly. I'm not bitter, Simon. I'm honest. Something you claim to value, remember? Or does honesty only count when it's coming from you? There's a difference between honesty and hostility, Simon replied, his voice steady despite the obvious anger beneath it. And right now, you're being hostile for no reason other than to boost your ratings. Nadia stood up, trying to physically place herself between them. Please, both of you, this is not... Stay out of this, Nadia, Denise warned, her eyes never leaving Simon. This is between me and him. No, actually it's not, Simon said, taking a step back toward the set. Because you've involved your entire panel, your audience, and everyone watching at home in your personal vendetta against me. Whatever I did to upset you, I'm sorry, but this is insane. Insane? Denise's voice reached a new pitch. You want to know what's insane? What's insane is that we live in a world where people like you get to determine other people's worth. Where you get to sit on a throne and pass judgment while the rest of us are supposed to just accept it. Kay stood up now too, her voice firmer than before. Denise, I really think we need to... What, Kay? What do we need to do? Denise whirled on her colleague. Protect Simon Cowell's feelings? Make sure the big star is comfortable. Why is it always about protecting them and never about holding them accountable? Accountable for what exactly? Simon demanded, his patience clearly exhausted. For doing my job? For being successful? For not pretending that everyone who walks through an audition door is talented when they're not? For being cruel, Denise said, each word deliberate and sharp. For making entertainment out of people's pain. For teaching an entire generation that it's okay to tear others down as long as you're successful. The audience was completely silent now, transfixed by the escalating confrontation. Janet Street Porter, usually never one to stay quiet, sat frozen in her seat, looking between Denise and Simon with wide eyes. "You don't know anything about me," Simon said, his voice low and dangerous now. "You don't know what I do behind the scenes. How many people I've helped. How many careers I've launched. All you see is what's on television, and you've decided that's enough to judge my entire character." "Oh, the irony," Denise said with a bitter smile. "Simon Cowell complaining about being judged based on what people see on television. How does it feel? Not great, is it?" "The difference is," Simon said, taking another step forward, "when I judge someone's performance, I'm judging their work, not attacking them personally. What you're doing right now is personal, and it's wrong." "Wrong?" Denise threw her hands up. "Everything is always wrong unless it's coming from you, right? You're the expert, the authority, the one who gets to decide what's right and wrong." Nadia tried again, her voice pleading. "Denise, please, you're taking this too far." "Too far?" Denise spun toward her. "You think I'm taking this too far? Where were you all these years when Simon was taking things too far on his shows? Where was your outrage then?" "That's completely different," Nadia protested. "That's a competition show. This is a talk show. We're supposed to be having a conversation, not..." "Not what?" Denise challenged. "Not holding powerful men accountable? Not asking the questions everyone else is too afraid to ask?" Simon let out a long breath, shaking his head slowly. "You're not holding me accountable, Denise. You're grandstanding. There's a difference." "Keep telling yourself that," Denise shot back. "Keep pretending you're the victim here. But everyone watching knows the truth." "And what truth is that?" Simon asked, his voice tired now. "That you can't handle being on the receiving end," Denise said triumphantly. "That you can dish it out, but you can't take it. That beneath all that confidence and success, you're just as fragile as the people you've judged all these years." Kay stood up again, her voice urgent. "I really think we should end this now. This has gone way beyond..." "Beyond what?" Denise snapped at her. "Beyond polite? Beyond comfortable? Good. Maybe it's time we stopped being so polite and comfortable around people like him." "People like me," Simon repeated slowly. "And what exactly does that mean?" "Rich, powerful men who think the rules don't apply to them," Denise said, counting on her fingers. "Men who have never had to face real consequences for their actions. Men who..." "That's enough," Simon cut her off, his voice like ice. "I came here as a guest on your show. I agreed to this interview in good faith. And you've spent the entire time attacking me, disrespecting me, and making wild accusations. I don't care how you feel about me personally, but this is unprofessional, and it's over." He started walking toward the exit again, but Denise's voice followed him. "That's right. Run away. Prove my point. Show everyone watching that you can't handle criticism." Simon stopped at the edge of the set, turning back one final time. "This isn't criticism, Denise. And for the record, I hope whatever is making you so angry gets resolved, because this bitterness isn't good for anyone." "Don't you dare psychoanalyze me," Denise yelled, her voice echoing through the studio. "Don't you dare act like I'm the one with the problem here." "Denise, stop." Janet finally spoke up, her voice sharp. "This is embarrassing. For all of us." "Embarrassing?" Denise turned on Janet now. "You think I'm embarrassing? What about him? What about all the people he's embarrassed over the years?" "Two wrongs don't make a right," Janet replied, firmly. "And this is wrong. This is not what we do on this show." Nadia nodded in agreement, tears visible in her eyes. "This was supposed to be a nice interview. I don't understand what happened." "What happened," Denise said, her voice still raised, "is that I refused to give him an easy ride. I refused to sit here and laugh at his jokes and pretend everything is fine when it's not." Simon was fully off the set now, standing near the studio doors. A producer approached him, speaking quietly, but Simon shook his head firmly. "No," Simon's voice carried across the studio. "I'm not coming back. This is over." Denise called out to him, "You're really going to walk out? You're really that much of a coward?" Simon paused at the door, his back to the set. For a moment it seemed like he might turn around, might respond, but instead he just pushed through the doors and disappeared from view. The studio fell into stunned silence. Kay, Nadia, and Janet all stared at Denise, who was still standing, breathing heavily, her face flushed. "Well," Denise said to the cameras, trying to compose herself, "I guess that answers that question." Kay's voice was quiet, but firm. "What question? The question of whether you could destroy an interview? Because, yes, you certainly answered that." "I was holding him accountable," Denise insisted, but her voice had lost some of its fire. "No," Janet said, standing up and removing her own microphone. "You were attacking him, and it was uncomfortable to watch." Nadia wiped her eyes, looking directly at Denise. "That was cruel. Whatever your issues with Simon are, that was just cruel." "Cruel?" Denise looked around at her colleagues in disbelief. "You're calling me cruel? After everything he's done?" "What has he done?" Kay asked, spreading her hands. "Seriously, Denise, what has Simon Cowell personally done to you to deserve that kind of treatment?" Denise opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every uncomfortable second. "That's what I thought," Kay said quietly. "This wasn't about holding anyone accountable. This was about something else entirely." The audience began to murmur again, the spell of the confrontation finally breaking. Some people looked shocked, others looked disappointed, and a few looked angry. A producer rushed onto the set, speaking urgently to the panelists. The show was clearly ending early, the remaining segments abandoned. Denise finally sat down, the reality of what had just happened seeming to sink in. I was trying to..." "You were trying to create a moment," Janet said, not unkindly, but not gently either. "And you did, but not the kind of moment you wanted." Nadia stood up, her voice shaking. "I need to take a break. I need a minute." She walked off set, leaving Kay, Janet, and Denise sitting in awkward silence. The audience was being ushered out now, the magic of live television completely shattered. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," Denise said quietly, but whether she was talking to her colleagues or to herself was unclear. Kay looked at her colleague with a mixture of sympathy and disappointment. "But it did go that far, and now we all have to deal with the consequences." Through the studio doors, raised voices could be heard. Simon was presumably still in the building, likely speaking with producers or his own team. The sound of his voice, even muffled by distance and walls, was clearly angry. Janet stood up, gathering her things. "I've been in television for 30 years, and I've never seen anything quite like that." "Was I wrong?" Denise asked, looking up at her. "Was I wrong to challenge him?" "Challenging someone is fine," Janet replied. "That wasn't challenging. That was warfare, and it was one-sided and ugly." The lights in the studio began to dim as the crew started breaking down the set. What was supposed to be a straightforward promotional interview had turned into something else entirely. Something that would be talked about and analyzed and replayed for years to come. Denise sat alone on the purple sofa as her colleagues dispersed, the weight of what had transpired finally settling on her shoulders. The cameras had stopped rolling, but the damage was done. In trying to hold someone accountable, she had revealed something far less flattering about herself. Outside the studio, Simon Cowell climbed into his car without speaking to the press that had somehow already gathered. His expression was stony, his jaw tight. He had faced difficult interviews before, had dealt with hostile journalists and tough questions. But this was different. This was personal in a way he hadn't anticipated, and his response had been to walk away with whatever dignity he could salvage. Back inside, the loose women's set stood empty now, the bright lights turned off, the purple furniture looking dull and lifeless. What had started as a routine day of daytime television had ended with one of the most explosive confrontations in the show's history, all because one host decided that being provocative was more important than being professional. The silence in the empty studio spoke volumes. No winners, no resolution, just the lingering tension of a conversation that had spiraled completely out of control. And somewhere in that silence was a lesson about the difference between accountability and aggression, between asking hard questions and launching personal attacks, between good television and simply going too far.